I was making an observation as I was making some squares to be able to put an Afghan together about the very first chain row that you do. So these are double crochet blocks here, and you can see it's 5 stitches wide, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now these are the double crochet blocks where you count the turning chain as a stitch. So in that very beginning row, it seems to be shorting me a stitch to be able to sew together and connect, to be able to connect my other block. So if I've got these two blocks right, you're going to sew them together. I've got 5 stitches at the top here, and I'm still left with 2 turning chains to bring the work up to height, but watch what happens here. Okay, if I'm going to sew this, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and my stitch count is 5. So I literally just ran out of stitches to line up to sew together, because if I go over and grab the next chain for stitch number 5, I actually just grabbed my bottom turning chain. And so I kind of wondered if, putting together an entire huge Afghan, if eventually I would start getting maybe some puckering, because I feel like I'm pulling down on that turning chain to use it to sew into. So I came up with my own little method. And so what I did is I just added one more chain to my beginning chain at the very bottom. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here's that chain that I added right there to be able to sew together. And if you look at the side, I still have my 2 turning chains bringing my work up to height. So I've just basically made an extra chain as the base, just like all these other stitches have a base chain. So this now becomes my base for my corner stitch right here. And I just feel that this is going to work out better. So it's a real simple adjustment. You're just going to make your designated number of chains. So in my case, it's going to be 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now normally in double crochet, you add 2 more chains for your turning chains. So in with my alteration, I'm going to add 1 more chain. So I'm going to make it 5 plus 3. And then instead of going into the 4th chain from the hook for my very first stitch, I'm going to go into the 5th chain from the hook because I just added a stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right there. And I made my yarn over already, and insert your hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And then the entire rest of the project will be done just like as in regular crochet. And I'm gonna do a second row. Okay, I've got 1 more stitch here. Okay, so on my bottom row here, you can see my 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And each of those stitches has a base chain so that I can come back and sew into later. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's my base for number 5. I still have my 2 turning chains there to bring it up to height. And that very top chain will be what I come back and make my second row into that very top chain right there. So I'm going to do a second row. So for the second row, you make 3 chains and turn your work, yarn over, and you're going to go into the second double crochet. So here's the first double crochet, here's the second one. And just go into that, and you're just going to work your double crochets and just this second row and all the succeeding rows are exactly like the standard double crochet. And you'll just make that last stitch into the very top of that turning chain from below. These are the chains that you skipped at the very beginning. Okay, so it's worked just like a regular double crochet. And to me, I just feel that it's going to work out better. I actually think it even squares it up more. This is my method, and I feel like it's a lot squarer looking, whereas the other method, I almost kind of feel like it curves, like it. See if you can see them side by side. So this one over here is my method, and this is the standard method right here. And I'm not sure if it's really showing up on camera, but this has a definite more angle to it. When you're looking at it from the front, it angles upwards. So anyway, that's my little fix for my little Afghan blanket that I'm making, and I'm happy with that change. You know, if you don't want to make that change, that's fine. I'm sure it will work out just the same because people have been crocheting for years like this, and it'll just put, you know, a little bit more pull because you are using that bottom turning chain. It'll just put a little bit more pull down on it, but I'm sure it'll look just fine, just the same. So anyway, that's my little tip for fixing the Afghan square to just kind of square it up a little bit better.